is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. Individual bondholders are tonight turning up the heat once more on the finance ministry, demanding payment of more than 4 billion cedis in interest and principal on which the ministry defaulted last week. The Individual Bondholders Forum have just dispatched a letter to the finance minister demanding the payment of outstanding bonds that matured on the 6th of February. The Individual Bondholders Association of Ghana have taken it a step further. A delegation from the association were at the police headquarters today to serve a formal notice of an impending 4-day protest at the ministry starting from Monday, 20th February. One of the conveners of the group, Dr. Joel Akwete, says government can avoid this picketing by just paying the bondholders.
Technically, we're not going on the same path. What we're simply asking of government is to honor the bonds that are due. Because before we went into the DDE program, we had an understanding that it's a voluntary process. And so government is expected that if one opts out, their coupons are honored. And so we are going strictly according to the documents we have and the assurance we had before this DDE program that all voluntary bondholders will not be penalized. They will be honored, and so that's just what we want. So we're not asking for anything out of what is due us. That's all.
I mean, from the legal point of view, the ministry has said that this issue is voluntary. You can decide to opt in or opt out.
That's right.
Why do you want government to specifically state that they've exempted you when you can simply self-exempt?
At this point, we have come to the realization that our old bonds will be honored, and so we are calling on government to honor. Yes, so that's why we're taking this approach, because we're writing formally to the minister, but we also want them to know that we're not going to. We expect them to honor our bonds, and if they do, this picketing will actually not come on. So we're doing this in phases. We expect between this week and next week, 20th, we'll hear something favorable from the ministry. Then we all rest easy.
Well, Martin Kpebu is lawyer for the group, and he was also at this meeting with the police. He says the government must not only honor that obligation to the bondholders, but must publicly announce full exemption.
This is going to make a huge difference. You know, this is coming on the back of our liberation by Chief Justice Sophia Kufu. You see, she gave us an impetus by coming to demonstrate, by picketing. So we are taking off from there. Look, Mr. Asante, it's not a joke. When we picket for 5 days, it's going to galvanize more support for our cause, because this is a cause that we must win at all costs, which is that individuals must be exempt. And government took a good step by saying they will honor existing bonds. So we're hoping that eventually then they will come to exemption, because Mr. Asante, the point is that government is not presenting the agreement today to the IMF. They still have some time. Even if it were Friday, they can ask the IMF to give them some time to redraw the the program, the debt exchange program, so that they specifically say individual bondholders are exempt. So we have a lot of time on our hands, and we believe that this picketing will help galvanize support for our cause.
I want to bring in my correspondent, Kweku Asante. He was with the Individual Bondholders Association representatives at the police headquarters, and Kweku, they met the police commander himself. This was a formal notice. What response did they get from the police? Hello, Kweku.
Hello, Evans.
Yes. What response did they get from the police?
After that meeting with the police commander himself, the Deputy Greater Accra Regional Police Commander, the crime officer, the legal officer, and the staff officer met the individual bondholders. This time around, I was allowed into the meeting. My colleague from Adum News was also allowed into the meeting. It was a back and forth about whether or not it will be prudent for this meeting or this picketing to be held at the precincts of the Finance Ministry, just as the pensioners have been doing over the last 5 days. So After about an hour of deliberation, both parties came to an agreement that what is going to happen is that the picketing is going to happen at the Independence Square, and then a group of about 30 or 50 will be led by the police to the Ministry of Finance premise every other day to do something there, whatever that they want to do that is lawful, they may do so.
And the individual bondholders agree to this.
They agree mainly because they are not aware of the number of people who will come in for the picketing. If they were aware that about 100 people, they could do so. But because they could not guarantee that within a number of 100 people will be at this meeting, the police were able to impress upon them to change their plans, start the picketing at the Independence Square, and then you can move to the Finance Ministry with about 30 or 50 people, present a petition or whatever that you want to do, and then within an hour, you will return to the Independence Square.
Okay, quickly, thank you very much. Thankfully, Martin Kpebu, lawyer for that group, joins us on the telephone line right now. Martin, it's been a week now since the 6th when that technical default happened. I take it that you have not heard anything from the Finance Ministry as to when exactly those payments will be made?
Yes, Evans. We haven't heard anything. And that's very debilitating. You know, based on the assurances of the finance minister that government will honor existing bonds, individual bondholders were looking forward to 5th February, that was last Monday, with so much excitement and alacrity, only for government to swerve us. That's very, 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 very bad, to say the least, for lack of a better word. Okay? You cause so much excitement, you raise people's hopes, and just dash those same hopes in such a callous and insensitive manner. That's not good governance. Evans, I keep saying the finance minister is just abusing his office.
The assumption was, and it was actually also in the DD document, that because government was anticipating to close the DD program, at that time it was anticipated the day after. Now it became last week Friday. It wasn't prudent to pay because then you don't know which of the holders of those bonds maturing that day would have signed on voluntarily. So wait post the closure of the deadline, post the deadline, then you can now sort it out and pay. So they are within time if you accept that argument.
No, Evans, we don't. So what prevents the finance minister from coming to tell us this? It's just a 2-line, notice or message to the individual bondholders. What does it spoil? Because you see, you're saying assumption. You have to do assumptions, deductions. How many individual bondholders can read and make all these deductions and assumptions? So that's why I said the manner in which the finance minister is kept quiet is caused a lot of pain, fear and panic, so much anxiety, sleepless nights. It was needless. You know, last week, was it on Wednesday or Tuesday? Yeah, he addressed the nation and then did that administrative, extension. So if he had time to address the nation, he couldn't have added 2 sentences about the fate of individual bondholders whose bonds had matured on the 6th of February. Evans, he granted a full interview and he didn't see fit to address that matter. Oh.
Let's talk about the protest. From what my reporter who sat in the meeting with the commander and yourself describes, there has been some alterations. So you start at the Independence Square and then a group of you will be ushered to the Finance Ministry. How does that work exactly? Would that achieve the objective of what you set out to do?
Evan, I think half a loaf is better than none. Yes, half a loaf is better than none. The message will still be made. So most of us will be at the Independence Square. Then leadership will come to the Finance Ministry and then present a petition and also, talk to you guys, media men, to carry our message, etc. Well, let's take it one day at a time. Evans, we are still in the jubilation mood after Chief Justice Sophia Kufu came and gave our struggle a shot in the arm. Let's see who else will show up to support us. But in the meantime, we need to remind the president that the very Arab Spring he cautioned John Mahama against it's looking like these are very ripe conditions for the same Arab Spring. So you should do the needful. Make sure that the finance minister pays us so that they will be calm and quiet in Ghana.
So this begins on Monday to Thursday.
Monday to Friday.
Monday to Friday, next week.
Yes.
Okay. Martin, thank you very much. Martin Kpebu is a convener with the Individual Bondholders Association of Ghana. Senya Hossi is a convener with the Individual Bondholders Forum. As we speak tonight, they have also dispatched a letter to the Finance Minister. Mr. Hossi, so thanks for joining us on Top Story. So this letter to the Finance Minister, what's in it?
Thank you, Evans, and good evening to your listeners. It's a very simple letter. We've had meetings with the minister. We've had some consensus on the way forward. We've held negotiations with him. And he gave us three options. An option, foremostly, not to participate in the DDE. And we maintained recommendation to have that option be the viable option for members or individual bondholders. And nonetheless, people were still up to make decisions for themselves. Now, we have a lot of people who did not submit to the DBE process. They are entitled to their money. The Minister of Finance was categorical in our negotiations that he will honor the payments of all the old bonds, besides his own commitment, which I'll see as a policy commitment, is the fact that we are entitled to our legal rights in a particular matter. And he is aware. He affirmed it. He affirmed it again, not just in the meeting, but also in the press statement of the 31st of January 2023. Thankfully, we all had support from Super Akufo, who also affirmed that particular right. And we trust that the Minister of Finance will make good on his own commitment and his legal obligation. All we have done here is to remind him that tomorrow is the settlement date. So the payments for the bonds that were due, that were reasonably, I must admit, it was reasonable to suspend those payments because you need to establish the bonds that are outstanding. As a member of industry, I can't act with no ramos. That started on the 6th of February, and today, I think there are some coupons that were supposed to have been paid. Effective tomorrow, close of business, government would have firmed up its settlement under the DBE. Meaning it can tell all the members or holders of those bonds that did not submit to the DBE process. And for that matter, their obligations become immediately due. We have recommended to government that it honors this obligation not later than the 17th, which is Friday, to engender proper confidence. The Ministry of Finance must admit that they are facing a major credibility crisis, and its actions are the only mechanisms to really undo that. And for that matter, this particular payment is one that they should seize the opportunity to start rewriting the narrative about the ministry and even the confidence in governance as a whole.
And that's a key point, is it not? Because whether or not they honor this within time, and I think if you look at the terms, they within 15 days or so they can play around, but beyond which it will be a formal default. This will be the test, whether or not you can trust the finance minister word going forward.
It would definitely be the test. It would definitely be the test, undoubtedly. Now, it's 15 days from the 6th of February for that particular payment on the principal and 30 days on coupons. Government's practice has not been to take advantage of that grace period. It has been timely about what it does and the payments it makes. So that culture, we expect him to restate in this particular repayment process of what we are referring to as due bonds. I don't expect government to say, okay, I want to take advantage of all the food. That would be a breach of trust. It may be legal, but it would definitely be immoral, unethical, and a total breach of trust. So what we have requested the finance ministry is to notify the market of exactly when it intends to close. You must manage expectations in the market. I don't think the government would want to drive something so untoward after all the kind of cooperation and engagements we've had. So we have our eyes on the ball. We're just dropping a reminder. Please make good on your obligations as you yourself committed to, as legally is required of you, as ethically is required of you, true to policy is required of you.
I mean, Senor, if they default, if they don't honor those obligations as you've reminded them in this letter, what happens? What's the follow-up plan?
That is a call for war. But I don't think that is the matter. And I don't want us to have a conversation where either party says, look, we've had a very cooperative engagement with the ministry. I've had conversations even this morning with the ministry. We want to trust that we are all reasonable, we are cooperative, and we are seeking the good of the country. As you are aware, it's not ever been our position that we are doing the DDA in principle. We have always been against the involvement of individuals in the DDA program because it has larger and broader economic implications. So we think that there's healthy cooperation, but we keep our options very close to our chest. We are over 300,000. We're a 300,000 member group, and everybody's interest would have to be protected legitimately.
Ms. Hosey, thank you very much. Senor Hosey is a convener with the Individual Bond Holders Forum. Well, today, more prominent retired Ghanaians joined pensioners to picket at the Finance Ministry, demanding complete exemption from the debt exchange program. Last week, former Chief Justice Sophia Kufu stormed the Finance Ministry, describing government's approach as wicked and unlawful. My colleague James Aveji was back with the pensioners today and joins me live. So, who was there today, James?
So, Evans, we did not have the former Chief Justice, Justice Sophia Kufu, there today, but we had another big picketer who was the former Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Kwesi Osam. And so Prof is also a pensioner bondholder who decided to invest in these government bonds just 2 years ago and has decided today to add his voice to the call to have the whole we have had the whole of last week for an exemption. So he said he's leaving the decision to leave these elderly people to picket at the Finance Ministry is actually an abomination.
I was aware of the Greek crisis when basically they went through something similar. So at the back of my mind, I knew that it was possible for government to default. So government bonds, if you like, are not risk-free. They are not 100% risk-free, but they have very reduced risks. So that's why I got in.
So you got in, and less than 2 years, this is what is happening. This is where we are. Are you so surprised?
In one sense, I'm surprised. In another sense, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised in the sense that as a nation, we've gone along a certain path so consistently, and it has brought us to this stage. That surprises me. But I'm not surprised because when these things were happening, when the borrowing was happening, people spoke about it. Not necessarily politicians, but generally spoke about it. People, professionals, spoke about it that, look, this borrowing is going to be problematic. It's going to be problematic. And we didn't listen. So I'm not surprised. If you borrow beyond your means, this is a basic economic principle. You are asking me about my personal finances. So right now, the whole world will know that, oh, yeah, Professor Sam has some money in bonds. Why should it come to that? James, why should it come to the point where my private financial matters, now I have to talk about them in public? But I'm doing this for the sake of this country. I'm doing this so that my children and my children's children after them don't have to do this. The government, if you ask me, the government is abusing our trusts. And that shouldn't happen. Are losing their monies.
So that's a former pro VC there. He had some advice for his children. What was it?
Yes, Evan. So he said this is not something he will ever do again and will not advise his children to also do so.
Now, in 1982-83, I'm sure you've read it somewhere, when the 31st December revolution came and people lost their monies. I'm sure you've heard about that. You know, it took us like more than 30 years for people to have confidence in the financial system of this country. Now, anybody can tell me that I'm lying, but that's the fact. When that move happened and people lost their monies, so at that time, if you had a certain amount beyond, I think back then was 50,000, it wasn't much money, you lost it. I know somebody who said, as for me, because of that, I am never investing liquid money in this country. So this person has a way of either investing in real estate or landed properties. Because this individual said that, look, I can't trust any government of this country. What is happening now, it's going to make people very suspicious about their government and the financial sector of this country. You think I'll advise my children to invest in anything government? Of course not, I won't. Because I say, well, you can go ahead and do it, but remember that it's risky. And nobody can convince me that, as I said, I'm not a finance expert, I'm not an economist, but right now, nobody can convince me in this country that investing in anything government is not risky.
Okay. Last week, James, when the pensioners were there, together with the former Chief Justice, the Finance Minister called them in for a meeting. Did that happen today?
No, that didn't happen. Neither the finance minister nor any official of the finance ministry extended any form of invitation to them. But they are hopeful that the finance minister will pronounce that exemption when he addressed the nation, hopefully today or tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much, James. George, with the business team, is joining me right now because we have the very latest for you on where the finance ministry is at tonight with the debt exchange program. We're expecting an announcement of whether or not they have achieved what they require to move forward. George, we've been reporting all day that they appear to have received the 80% subscription they require.
Yeah, Evans, you're right. And for those who have had knowledge or those who have an understanding about how the offer went, that's at close of Friday, we understand that they've gotten more than 80% participation by bondholders in this offer. In terms of those that submitted their old bonds to participate in this new debt exchange program, they've gotten more than the 80%, and some are putting the figure at around 86%. As of last Friday, we also learned that in terms of monetary value, we're looking at somewhere around over 90 billion Ghana cedis, and the auditing is still ongoing for us to get the fine details of what government has gotten us of today. But Evans, don't forget that the settlement will be done tomorrow, and for that one, it is stated in the document. So government is supposed to come out and tell all these individuals, get the allotment and all those things in terms of individuals, in terms of these institutional investors, those that participated. Evans, one thing we're also hearing that is these institutional investors, the commercial banks, the insurance firms, those in the securities industry, they might have contributed in helping government to achieve this target of the over 80% participation by these bondholders in this offer.
Financial sector. So
yeah, financial sector.
Banks.
Mainly
the banks. Mainly the banks.
All the banks did participate in this offer that government tabled, as well as the insurance firms and those in the securities industry, and that is why government appeared to have gotten this 86%. We also understand that this excludes the pension funds, so that is giving you that percentage in terms of the results.
I mean, so in other words, those who did not subscribe, like the individual bondholders, they should be safe.
Yeah, it's based on the promise that the Minister of Finance has put out,
which is that I will honor my obligations to you if it falls due.
Yeah.
And we've just been talking about there is a test now.
Yeah.
There's a test case for the Finance Minister regarding
the
bond
February
that-
4, and we also
That's it,
understand that
February
there's some that is going to mature this week as well. Like
in fact,
the 16th of February.
Senior says some were due today.
Oh, okay, today rather.
Some were
Sorry,
due today. And so this is a test case.
Yeah.
They've written to him. The Martin Kpebu's group have already served notice. Will be protesting.
Yeah.
He has to meet those obligations then to sort of lay the path.
and if these results are based on what we have picked up as of last Friday is anything to go by, then government has met its target. So really, are these individuals that significant? Then take them aside and make the necessary obligations to them in terms of their coupon payment and those that have matured.
But when
as
are
well.
we expecting a formal announcement?
Well, the auditing is still ongoing. Maybe we're supposed to get that today, but don't forget that per the calendar, the settlement is going to be done tomorrow. We don't know whether these institutional investors might get some email, because when the settlements are done, you are supposed to be notified in terms of how your participation, the allotments, and all those things. You remember last year, the previous time when we were told that the Thursday they will come out with the memorandum of understanding, it delayed as well. So we don't know whether government is this time or the Ministry of Finance is going to stick to the timetable as announced in their statement.
Okay, we wait for that, George. Thank you very much. On PM Express tonight, we are looking, now that it's over, what next now? Particularly for, as you just heard there, for the financial institutions that participated, making it possible for the finance ministry and the government to hit the 80% plus mark. But what consequences will there be for the banks in particular, for the entire financial sector? Join me, myself and my panelists, as we discuss that on PM Express at 9 p.m.